What if I told you I just won a ranked Pokémon Champions battle without throwing a single attack? No damage moves, no direct hits, just pure suffering. Today's challenge is simple. Build a Pokémon team with 0 attacking moves and climb Pokémon Champions ranked. No punches, no special attacks, nothing. Instead, my team wins through poison, burns, sandstorm chip damage, and entry hazards. Every single Pokémon on my team deals damage without ever directly attacking. First up, Glimmora, my lead and the heart of this entire strategy. Glimmora sets up Stealth Rock and Toxic Spikes in the early turns, but here's the crazy part. Its ability, Toxic Debris, automatically scatters poison spikes on the field whenever it gets hit by a physical move. That means opponents are literally setting up my hazards for me just by attacking. Free setup every single time. Next, Hippowdon. This absolute unit brings permanent sandstorm to the battlefield. Every turn opponents take chip damage
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye
from the storm, whether they like it or not. And if they try to stall me out, Hippowdon uses Roar to force them to swap, sending their Pokemon straight into my hazards again. Third, Skarmory. If Glimmora didn't stack enough spikes already, Skarmory finishes the job. 3 layers of spikes means grounded Pokemon lose 25% HP every single time they switch in. Add that to Stealth Rock and Toxic Spikes damage, and switching becomes absolutely terrifying for opponents. Skarmory also just refuses to die with Iron Defense and Roost, as well as using Whirlwind to force my opponent to swap out. It will outlast everything. Fourth, Scovillain. This one inflicts burns on physical attackers, cutting their damage in half while dealing passive burn damage every turn. Paired with Leech Seed, draining HP every single turn, Scovillain turns every battle into a slow, painful war of attrition that opponents cannot win. Fifth, Whimsicott. This one has a very specific but absolutely critical job. If opponents use Taunt on my Pokemon, it forces them to only use attacking moves. But my team has no attacking moves, which means my Pokemon would be forced to use Struggle, a move that hurts itself. Whimsicott's prankster ability lets it use moves first always, meaning it stops Taunt before it ever lands. Crisis avoided. And finally, Bastiodon, my personal favorite, the ultimate tank. Bastiodon's job is simple. Protect Glimmora using Wide Guard. Bastiodon shields the entire team from spread moves while stalling indefinitely. Let us see if I can climb the ranks with this team, or is this gonna end badly for me? For this battle, I started using my usual strat, Glimmora and Skarmory first to set up the hazards. I do not like where this is going. Thanks to Glimmora, I was able to set up my Toxic Spikes as well as learning what my opponent's team does. Now, Snorlax can guarantee one hit KO me with Fissure. All it has to do now is to just spam the A button. This Snorlax is going to be my biggest threat for this battle. Luckily, Skarmory is the only one that's immune to Fissure, so I use that to my advantage. Thanks to Whirlwind, I can force the Snorlax to swap out and get rid of its guarantee Fissure. I then send out Hippowdon to do some chip damage with Sandstorm and let my Skarmory set up spikes.
That Snorlax has the immune ability, which means my Toxic Spike has no effect on it. Same goes for Hawlucha since it's a flying type. For now, I have to set up my spikes while avoiding Fissure from Snorlax. Good thing I also have Roar to force the Snorlax to swap out. Thanks to the Whirlwind and Roar, the guarantee Fissure threat is now gone, but there is still a chance for me to get hit by it. Now I can just spam Roar and keep letting my opponent step on the spikes.
At this point, my opponent and I are going back and forth with Roar and Incineroar with Parting Shot, but at least they're getting damaged every time they come in. I then swap out Hippowdon for Scovillain in order to burn and do chip damage to the Hawlucha since it cannot be affected by the Toxic Spikes either. I decided to Mega Evolve my Scovillain to try and use its ability to burn both Snorlax and Hawlucha. Sadly, only Hawlucha was the only one that got burned. Since the spikes have reached its limit, I can just use Iron Defense and Roost to stall them out. Right now, my opponent's strat is to use moves like Rock Slide and Iron Head to keep making my Pokemon flinch. They are specifically targeting my Skarmory, as that is their biggest threat, forcing me to flinch during crucial moments like trying to use Roost at low HP to avoid stalling. The good news is I was able to use Iron Defense. Now my Skarmory is tanky. The bad news is my Hippowdon got hit with Fissure. All that remains is my Skarmory. Time for it to 1v4. From here, I just keep using Whirlwind to swap out and let my opponent step on the spikes. I also observe my HP and keep it from dropping below yellow HP in case of flinch or crit or other circumstance. It's a good thing my opponent are all physical attackers. That way my Iron Defense can help me reduce incoming damages and allows me to stall until the poison slowly knocks out my opponent's team.
I know Flare Blitz is a super effective move on me, but that still does that much damage even with full Iron Defense stacks? My problem now is the Snorlax, since my Scovillain failed to burn Snorlax, and it has immunity ability which prevents it from getting poisoned. And since my opponent is almost down to 2 Pokemon, that means my Whirlwind will become useless as well as the hazards. I also can't rely on Sandstorm for chip damage as well since the timer has run out and have no way of using Sandstorm. Finally got rid of Swampert. For the last stretch, I thought of a super slow idea wherein I try to let one of us run out of PP first to trigger struggle. This means that I have to stall until Hawlucha gets cooked from burn damage and PP stall the Snorlax. This time I was praying that I get flinched so that I can maintain more PP. I'll just use all of my moves and only use Roost when critical, since my opponent doesn't do much damage to me. I still have to be careful about my HP though, since Roost doesn't have a lot of PP as well, so I have to use it wisely.
A few moments later.
A few minutes later, all was going according to plan. That was until this happened. I guess Pokémon Champions has other plans since it suddenly gave us 1 minute left before making it a draw. My guess is since no Pokémon has fainted in a few minutes, maybe Pokémon decided to speed up the timer to pressure both sides into either forfeiting or perhaps one side would fumble. But instead, my opponent just let the timer run out without attacking anymore. For my second battle, I kinda messed up by not bringing Bastiodon with me. My opponent's team has a Garchomp who can use Earthquake on my Glimmora, but instead, my brain decided to go with Skarmory instead. Because of that, my Glimmora was unable to fully set up the hazards, leading to my ultimate defeat later on. If I had brought Bastiodon instead, I could have used Wide Guard to ensure that both Blizzard and Earthquake would have been useless, and my Glimmora would still be alive to continue setting up the hazards. So what I did now was just let Skarmory set up spikes and Hippowdon use Roar to continue disrupting my opponent. But this means that my damage output is reduced since only 1 layer of toxic spikes was placed. It only does constant poison damage instead of ramping the poison damage every turn. I would then have to plan further ahead since this means I have to stall even longer now. However, given my opponent's lineup, I'm not so sure if I can hold out very long. Now I am down to my last 2 Pokemon.
Before we proceed further with the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more contents like these.
And now back to the video.
I really should have brought Bastiodon instead of Scovillain. I'm not even sure why I brought Scovillain with me this battle. Using Protect can only stall me for this long. What a good Protect value that turn. I managed to stall the Outrage and block off the Blizzard. That means next turn Garchomp would be confused due to fatigue and a chance to hit himself, and Absol faints next turn due to poison damage. Too bad confusion didn't work and Scovillain had to sacrifice itself. At least Absol also goes down this turn.
That's one down, only 3 more to go, and I still don't even know who the last Pokemon is. So Ninetales is the last one. Come on, Hippowdon, I need you to wake up and use Protect this turn. At least Garchomp hurt himself. This Ninetales also counters my Hippowdon, since it has Drought that gets rid of my Sandstorm, as well as having Solar Beam a super effective move on my Hippowdon. Garchomp hurt itself through confusion, so that's another one down. So close. If only Hippowdon woke up that turn. For the third battle, everything was going smoothly. I was able to plant my toxic spikes and spikes. But because that's a Steelix, that means it's immune to toxic spikes, so I have to burn it instead. But for now, I don't even know what my opponent is doing, increasing its speed and using a ground-type move on my Skarmory, when they clearly know that Skarmory is a flying type, making it immune to ground-type attacks. Now that I have planted all of the hazards, it is now time to swap Glimmora out to let Scovillain burn the Steelix. Thankfully, they stopped attacking Skarmory and started targeting Scovillain, which means now I can just spam Whirlwind and let the hazards do the job. After healing up Skarmory and landing the burn on Steelix, it's now time to let the fun begin.
This is fine.
When I started to think that I can finally win against my opponent, but then my problem just appeared. My opponent has a Victory Bell, a poison type, which means it can remove my toxic spikes. So, once again I have to burn it. Hopefully I don't miss this time. Once again my opponent decided to use a move on my Skarmory that is fully immune, since Skarmory is also a Steel type. It is immune to poison moves. How did Stomping Tantrum hit my Skarmory? Is this a bug or am I missing something? Time to send in Glimmora again to plant the toxic spikes. Better hope this Victory Bell won't try to foil my plan again. Now I can just go Whirlwind again, and this time I know they have a Victory Bell, so I'll just use it once to send out their other Pokemon to apply poison. And then I add in Hippowdon to do more chip damage with Sandstorm plus Burn and Poison plus the hazards.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Now to do my favorite part, stalling. With both Skarmory and Hippowdon, who knows healing moves allows me to stall my opponent's team until Burn and Poison gets rid of them. Alright, that's one down, only 3 more to go. This Victory Bell is really starting to bug me, removing my toxic spikes again. No matter, it is almost time to end this. Since all of my opponent's Pokemon have been inflicted with status conditions, it's only a matter of time before their HP depletes. I wanted Hippowdon to be awake that turn so I can use both Whirlwind and Roar at the same turn for maximum damage outcome. Sadly, Hippowdon decided to enjoy a nice nap instead. My Skarmory would then took all the beating while Hippowdon just lays there not moving a single inch. And my Skarmory went down. At least he put up a good fight. Now it is time for Hippowdon to wake up and finish the job and save the day. Finally took down that pesky Victory Bell, but I don't want to use Glimmora and plant the toxic spikes again. But at this point in the game, it's already too late. Just to be honest with you guys, I'm not a competitive Pokemon player. I don't have the best strategies, and I definitely don't plan every single move perfectly each turn. I built this team purely for fun, just to enjoy the game and see what happens. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying you should copy this team or use it seriously in ranked. This is just me having fun and sharing it with you guys. If you enjoyed watching though, hit that subscribe button, it really helps the channel. And comment down below what team or challenge you want to see me try next.